Hi, Glow.
Hey,
How are you?
good. How are you?
I'm chilling. Well, I mean, this will come out later, but today is possibly impeachment day. Lord knows, I hope that when this comes out, that would have happened. Otherwise, how depressing this
That
episode would
part.
start. But I'm good. How you doing? You okay?
I'm good. And right now, when I check in with my Black people, I'm just like, but how are you really doing? And I think
Mm,
it's so important to remember our front facing selves. Oh, I'm good. I'm great. But like beyond that, like, how are you really doing? And I think these days, I'm just taking it a day at a time because I could be riding a high one day and then reminding myself of all the struggles that we still have to go through on a day to day basis.
I am right there with you. I'm glad you said that because I always say like, "How is your heart doing?" as opposed to "How are you?" And I forget that the "How are you really doing?" is especially important. And I had therapy this morning, and I was like, "I am honestly sad," and she was like, "That's okay." Like you like learning to sit in the sadness because I'm a fixer. So like if I'm sad, I'm like trying to get out of it. Like I'm like, and not even like a forced positivity, but it's like, okay, well, what do we need to do to get, and it's like,
Look, and a theme that I tried to like instate for this year is heal, and you have to feel the pain before you can heal it. And my trauma response was like, let me stay busy enough so I could suppress all of what I really feel.
yes,
And I think 2020 for a lot of us, all of our real emotions came up. So I'm allowing myself, like, yo, if I feel sad, if I feel down, let me sit in that and see what comes out of this because I'm working through some of these emotions for the first time.
yes. Wait, see, this is what always happens on this show. Like, I'm always like, I'm ready to go in. And I'm like, the guests are always like, let's go in, but let me start. Introduce yourself, anything you want us to know, starting with your pronouns.
Yes, I go by she, her. My name is Glow, and I am just someone who's obsessed with helping people make a bigger impact and income with their brands, with their stories, with anything that they want to build. And I was a travel blogger for 10 years, over 80 countries across 6 continents. And now I focus more on entrepreneurial coaching, business coaching, and just honestly educating and stepping up where I feel called to lead. And last year, like we both found
Yes.
ourselves in positions of like stepping up during a tumultuous time. But a lot of times we don't feel called or we don't I don't know how to put it, but we step up even when we don't want to. And I think
Ooh.
that's what I love about you and your platform is that even though it's easier for us to disappear and work through our own emotions, we step up when we feel called to.
Yeah. Yeah, for those who are listening, you don't know, but Glow and I, we're internet friends. We are the true definition of internet friends. In June when everything started to I guess come to the surface, if you will, Glow and I and some other accounts were ones that really kind of experienced an impact because people were finding themselves educated by the content. And I just love Glow's content, but also Glow's energy, as you can feel, just radiates warmth but also I think what I love about you, Glow, and your content specifically is that it's warm and inviting, but also very clear and direct. The boundaries are very clear. Do you know? Like, well, we can kiki and toast champagne, but also like be very clear about what we doing over in this corner of the internet.
And let me tell you, that was very intentional and that took a lot of work because if
Mm,
I want to be honest, like if I took how I felt and just put it on the internet,
hey.
but and here's the thing, I'm like, this is going, the black people gonna resonate because they
Mm,
feel it too. The white people are just they're gonna run away because
yeah,
a lot of them don't know how to take someone's emotions and turn it into a learning moment for themselves. They feel so guilty and they feel this conviction of like, oh, well, I didn't do it, not my responsibility. This country's past isn't your responsibility, but this country's futures it is your sorry,
absolutely.
this country's past isn't your fault, but this country's responsibility, future is
It's
your
your
responsibility.
responsibility. Yes. No, I'm with
I'm
you. I was
sorry
right there
for
with you.
my words.
I was
Thank
right there
you.
with you. Yes, absolutely not.
But, and so I had to figure out, I'm like, okay, if I want people to actually listen, I do have to deliver my message in a way that I think will reach the most people. And then when they're ready for that next level, I'm bringing it too. And I would almost like divide sometimes my content. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna scratch the surface of this, and then when they've been following for a little bit, I'm gonna let them know how I really feel, and then I'm gonna
Yes.
get but layers. I had to unpeel layers of what the message was.
That's so interesting because, I had a lot of conversations, especially in like June, July, August of 2020, because all of a sudden, with all the attention and kind of realizing that you're having this impact and people are coming to you, you want to be intentional. I'm somebody who is always intentional, but I also said Black people get to feel however they feel and get to say it however they want to fucking say it, period. So if
Period.
somebody wants to, hello, if somebody wants to, I'd be like, sorry, white people. I mean, if a Black person wants to write crackers, crackers, crackers on their Twitter, go. I will co-sign and say, do you? Like, that's not how I approach it. But I'm like, you get to feel and do whatever you want. But I will say that step of like pulling the layer back and being really intentional is extra processing. It's extra work for
It's
us as the creator or the educator. There's more work inside of this thing that was already working on us. Do you
that
know?
that part. And the most offensive thing that I would read in the comments or the DMs, thank you for not being so aggressive. And
Ugh.
oh,
Oh
I
my God.
appreciate that you're not yelling. And I would always be like, no, if
Yeah.
someone is yelling, that's just as valid. Do
Yes.
not minimize someone's pain because it's not delivered in the way that you can handle it. I am
Yes.
taking the time. I am meditating before I come on this toxic platform called
Talk about
Instagram.
it.
I am doing the work because I understand the reach and the potential to actually change hearts. Like, let me take that extra step. And that's a burden I'm putting on myself. But
Hmm.
not everyone needs to carry that burden. And don't you dare make any Black person feel like they need to codify, package, smoothen, dim in their words to make it more
Yeah.
appealing and palatable to you.
I 1000% agree. And it's been such uh a learning curve for myself, like learning what you quote unquote owe people and what you owe yourself. And the reality is you don't owe people shit. That's what I learned. But it's like, oh, this is how I want to show up, and that's important, and I got to be intentional. But also everybody's voice in this, especially every Black person's voice inside of this, is valid. The pain is valid. And I remember I like posted um my first video, or one of my videos early on, that was like the first time that for lack of a better term, let's just say felt passionate. And let's just call it passionate, okay? And somebody was like, your tone is just, and I was like, oh no, sir. It was a sir. No, sir. No, sir. Do not come from my tone. Like, we are not, but that's a thing. And then it's like, okay, now what I want to do is read you, and you glow. I could tell you got it in you. We could read people for filth to the ground, to dirt, to dust. But what we're gonna do, Glow, we're gonna meditate. We're gonna meditate. We're gonna figure out what the learning moment is, and then we're gonna come back and very firmly. And that's why I say your boundaries are so clear. And it was really, you were one of the accounts that inspired me to figure out how I wanted to run my account, because I just thought that you handled it. Uh, grace and elegance and those things are not the right words, because I feel like we're valued for being polite, and that's not what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? It's that you were honoring yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you were like, for me, I'm not here to get into fights with y'all on the damn internet. I'm not here to yell at y'all. That's not my energy. But I am also going to set very clear intentions and boundaries for my page. And I remember one post that you made, which has changed everything for me, which was like, you were talking about losing followers, because I'm sure you also noticed there was a point where those of us who had kind of been catapulted into the kind of forefront of these conversations, our followings skyrocketed, and then maybe around August, people were like, I'm tired. This is depressing. I'm gonna unfollow. I did
Right.
my work. I read White Fragility. I'm good. I read How to Be an Anti-Racist. I'm good. Unfollow. I'm no longer racist. I'm good. Like that, but that was like, as like for myself, and I don't know, you tell me, but like it just was like I started to feel take it personally, and then your post, which what I really remember was like, don't worry about people unfollowing you. And I think this is a life lesson too. You're making space for for more people who are about what you're doing. And I think that's a life lesson too. Like we get worried about the tree shaking and people leaving. And it's like, don't worry about that. You keep doing you. What's your intention? And you're gonna create the community, whether it's online or in real life, that can honor what you're doing, hold space for what you're doing, and value.
Absolutely. And I think it's important as well, whether people are content creators, entrepreneurs, whatever personal brand, like sometimes you're only meant to serve people for a season. And when
Mm,
they get that answer or they get that transformation, like, okay, cool, I'm ready for the next level or I'm ready for the next thing. So we hold on to like these people that are only meant to be around for a season and take it personal when they leave. And it's,
yes.
we value our art. So of course, we feel personally attacked and, just, someone's leaving, like, oh, they don't like me
Yeah.
anymore, whatever it is. But never conform or shift or shape yourself to something that other people are forcing you to become. Because if you start saying, or if you start taking feedback from other people of like, oh, I liked you more when you posted this, and oh, you're not posting this anymore, because you're evolving constantly. And
Hmm.
you continue to conform, like if you're a circle and you're conforming to what everybody wants you to be, you're not even a recognizable shape anymore. You got an angle over here, obtuse, acute. You know,
Woo!
you're just like constantly bent, and that's people pleasing 101.
Yes.
We've all been there, so it's
Yes.
important to just stay true to your shape, to your form, to your message, to your mission, to what you are meant to do.
Yes. Stay true to your shape. You're not even a shape you recognize anymore. Woo!
Be-
How many people just screamed? How
It's
many people in their car just threw their hands up, had to get the hands back on the wheel real fast? Lord of mercy. You're not even a shape you recognize even more. Well, let me ask you the little black folks question of the day, because you and I literally, whether the people are here or not, could just could just have a soul conversation. So my little black folks question is, what is your, and it doesn't have to be, it can change, but in this moment, what's your favorite advice from a black elder?
This is such a powerful question because I value, and I think every Black person can felt something like this, especially after last summer. But I value so much of the words of Black elders now
Mm,
because it's not just their age wisdom, it's their life wisdom through the context and perspective of a Black person. And there's so much that they've been able to do, there's so much that they've done that allow us the freedoms and abilities that we have. I would say, man, Mrs. Parker, probably in third grade, when she told me, you're going to work, you're going to need to work so much harder to get just an ounce of the respect your white peers will have.
oof.
Never take that personal. She told me not to take it personal. She said, I'm going to be in rooms with mediocre white people, and I'm
Mm,
going to feel so annoyed that they're further ahead or that they get these privileges that I have to work 10 times harder for. Don't take it personal. Let it be your superpower and shine with it.
oof. Oh, I love that.
She was the only Black teacher in my elementary school, and she was such a, she's now what, 70 something, but she would impart so much wisdom to me at such a young age, and I just appreciate her for that.
Oof, that gave me chills because it's funny. I had a conversation with somebody about the you have to work twice as hard to get half as far.
Yep.
And the conversation I had with this person was, which I loved, she was like, that's kind of inherently racist. It's like a racist frame of thinking, right? Which is, it's not a reflection on us as black people being like, this is the reality, but just like the fact that that is a thing is inherently racist. But how to offer to a young child don't take that personal. That's a real beautiful piece. Use that as your superpower. Like, then all of a sudden, instead of like seeing this huge ocean that you have to cross, which is like, and like they're already in the ocean, I'm on the land. It's like, no, 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 don't take it personal. This is your superpower. Think outside the box. Do it
Mhm.
differently. Work a little, like work differently. Shift a little bit. Ah, I love that.
And what that also did for me is it helped me build like unparalleled work ethic
Mm,
because I like what's standard for me, like people actually got to work for. I can show up and do something like that. Now I can because I've always had to work so much harder. And so that's built this inherent work ethic and like
yes.
just, yeah, like standard of excellence in my work because of that. I
Yes.
always had to show up more than I needed to because I'm Black.
Sure.
So now I use that to my advantage and it is truly a superpower.
Yes. I love that because then, maybe at first it starts with like being annoyed, but then you're like, this is just my standard. And I enjoy working at this standard of excellence. Like I enjoy, like, I know that I've had to work. Every Black person has had to work twice as hard. Like triple, quadruple, what's five, cinco, whatever it is. We've had to work really, really fucking hard. So I recognize that. But then now as an artist who can really own my work and own what I do, I have an appreciation for that standard because now when you try to put holes in what I'm doing, don't worry, baby, I took care of it. Like I know, like I can have the conversation, like because I know everything was done, as we said earlier, with such intention. So even if something is incorrect or inaccurate or needs to be shifted, I have space to have that conversation because everything was built with intention. So you're like, oh, I can take it when Glow says, "What about this? Great, let's fix that." It's not me going, um, uh, well, uh, look at me here.
You're a mess. You're a mess.
Okay, let me ask you the big Black folks question, which I'm excited to ask you about because, as you said, you are just a traveler by profession. And my husband is white, and we've had some conversations because he loves to travel, and traveling, I don't love it like he loves it. But what I realized, what I've unpacked from that is I think it's because there's a level of anxiety that I have in traveling as a Black queer person. Do you know what I'm saying? There's like a level of anxiety when you're like, let's just go. We were supposed to go to Arrowhead, which everyone loves to get away to Arrowhead here in LA. And we got pulled over by the cops within 24 hours. And so it's like that moment sticks with me. And moments like that, whenever I travel, just bring me a lot of anxiety. And so I realized it's not that I don't love traveling because I love other cultures. I love when I get to immerse myself in things that I don't know. But the anxiety is really like traveling while Black. And so I think I am excited to talk to you about like what have you, the big Black folks question is, what have you learned from traveling while Black? And we can take that wherever we want, but like what have you learned from traveling while Black?
If I'm being honest, it wasn't until I started writing about my experiences as a Black traveler that my brand started to gain traction because I
Ooh.
realized what there was so many of these questions that Black people had, like, where is it safe for us to travel? Where do we have good experiences? We wanted to guarantee before we spent our money in a destination, would they
Hmm.
even welcome us there? So
1000%.
look, so I started like creating content for the questions that I wondered. I was willing to take a chance and being like, I don't know if they like us in Poland, but I'm about to go find out.
Glow's gonna do the work for us.
So I was willing to take those chances. And it was scary because, again, here I was, not only having my Black skin spoke for me before I could even say a word. When they saw me,
Mm,
first, I was African. Well, I'll say this African sex worker, because a lot of there was a lot of sex trafficking and human trafficking that was happening from Africa to Europe. So the
mm,
first thing they thought about me was that I was a sex worker from Africa. Second thing, if I wasn't a sex worker, I was a local sex worker. So a lot of the African the sex traffickers that they brought, they became residents or they married local men. So then I was a
mm.
local sex worker. After that, well, then I was an African immigrant. So someone African, and again, when I say these words, when I use the word Africa, that doesn't have a positive connotation in a lot of places. Poor, uneducated, don't have money. Oh,
Oh,
you probably can't afford what's in this restaurant, what's in my business, whatever. So
right.
I'm dealing with that boom, boom, boom. Then I'm American tourist. When I
Mm,
open my mouth, only then is my skin color validated. Oh, and it's not even just being a person. It's like, oh, American. Okay, maybe she has money. Okay, maybe we'll treat her like a human. Oh,
yeah.
she can afford to travel to our country. Let's see what she can offer us. And it
Hmm.
was he's knowing that no matter the establishment or the place that I stepped in, I was gonna get those face value judgments was hard because countries like Brazil, and I'm going to say these countries, and obviously these are isolated experiences where I've been denied at restaurants or spit at, but Brazil, Czech Republic, China, and I'm in these countries and I'm like trying to build my travel brand, trying to inspire other Black people to travel, meanwhile being spit at for walking down the road. And it's like,
Oof.
how do I take the empowering message of like go travel Black people, but then also remind them like, hey, these are some realities to look out for. And
Yeah.
I had to continue to just like remind myself that sharing these stories didn't bring shame to what I was trying to do. It's a part of it, but I felt all the more inspired to continue putting myself out there, because if you are going to judge me or not like a Black person for me being Black, I'm going to smile back at you. I'm going to show you my humanity, because the
Mm,
next time you see a Black traveler, you're going to remember me. You're going to remember that I still smiled in the face of your racism. And I don't know who is going to be the next person after me, but I wanted to kind of be the guinea pig. And I was told a lot of times when I would go to these small villages around Europe and Asia, like, oh, sorry, we've never seen a Black person before. Sorry that we're staring so much. Like, we just, we see you in movies, but we never thought that you could be in our country. Like, they would
Lord have
get,
mercy.
there was a couple countries like Bulgaria, Montenegro, and Croatia, who tennis is a big sport in those countries, and they thought I was Serena Williams. We had the same hairstyle around the same time. They're like, oh,
Stop.
Savina Williams. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my kids, sign this, sign this. And that was a whole other experience.
Stop.
Then if it wasn't a lot of racism, it was like celebrity star treatment because you were an athlete, a Hollywood actress,
Right.
some celebrity, because they're like, whoa, if a Black person can afford to come to my country, they must be a celebrity or a famous all-star,
Mm,
so there was the other extreme side of that where it's like they let you eat at the restaurants for free, or they like want to flaunt you and take you around the whole city and let you do everything for free. You go into a nightclub and they literally change it to hip hop music and put you in VIP. Shout out to Latvia.
I love to like a Black person. Hip hop, change it. Get this Euro techno off. We're
Uber
some
drivers around the I would be riding in Uber drivers or in Uber cars in different countries, and they would be playing their local music. I would enter, they would put on hip hop and rap, and I'm just like, and they would
wow.
look to me like,
They're
yeah.
like, yeah, we like this. You like this, right? Because you like it, right? This is your music. You made this, right?
So there was also the hilarity of them trying to overcompensate. Like, let me show them that I'm down, like that,
Right.
and stuff like that. But no matter what, I would say 90% of my travel experiences were positive. And so what I tell other Black people is do it for the 90. Do it for the
Mm.
90.
Oh,
10%, yes, 10% will suck. You can't do anything about that. 10% of people around the world are inherently racist. They have made up their mind about what Black people can do, their value in this world. That is okay. Do it for the 90. The
mm.
90% of the world that welcome you with open arms and give you incredible experiences.
Yeah, I love that. When did you come to the how many trips or how many continents or countries before you were like, you know what? Do it for the 90? Because I'm sure that like those first moments are scary, right?
Yep.
Like when you get spit at, it's like for me, like, and maybe tell me, well, when you got spit, like to me, I'd be like, all right, getting on a plane, I'm out. Like, you know what I mean? Like what was that for you?
That's a really good question. So I would say the first like 20 countries were all pretty like popular tourist destinations. Everyone goes to Paris and Barcelona. So these were places that are used to seeing Black people. It
Yeah.
wasn't until like country 25 where I started getting the stares and they would close their door to their restaurant when I would start walking up. I was
Oh
like,
wow.
oh, they really don't like me. And when I was in Prague, and that's where I was spit at, I was actually doing a sponsored gig. So I was there on a brand's dime.
Wow.
And I went back to my accommodation and I cried. I cried myself to sleep. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't even want to be here. Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing? Like, they don't even want me here. Like, and I sent them an email. I was like, I'm so sorry. I have to void the contract. I can't complete this obligation. Here's what just happened. Like, I hope you understand. And look at me, literally getting treated like this racist experience, and me trying to be like, I hope you better understand.
That's, you know what? I didn't even clock that, and that is my own work to be done. But yes, there's like
Us.
an,
That is
and
us.
that's apologizing immediately for. Oh wow,
And
yeah,
they completely understood. They pulled all of the deliverables and they're like, hey, we're gonna get you out of there in a couple days. Like, hang tight, do this, but like we're gonna fly you to this country next, but like just take a couple days to just like take care of yourself, relax, no stress, no pressure, just, and
yeah. Well, thank goodness, because not every, not some of these white people be like, what?
pull it
Hey,
together.
get it together, sis. They'll use sis too. You'll be like, listen, white man, please stop.
We can unpack that in another like episode, but a white person calling me sis is not okay. And that's a boundary I've been very clear about too.
Yes, it doesn't.
It doesn't sit with me.
It doesn't sit. It doesn't. Every time I, which I don't hear it, my gay friends will say like sis, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't hear it from white people often. But like my equivalent is, which yes, oh hey queen, what's up, girl? White people be like, hey girl, I'm like, oh my god, what?
You're a mess. You're a hot mess.
I really am. It's like I'm not. I don't understand my brain short circuits. I'm like, I don't. That's not. That's not for us.
It's like, because there are things that our communities do use and say to build sisterhood, brotherhood. Like it's for us, by us.
Yes.
That FUBU mentality. And
Yes.
you cannot co-opt every saying that you think is cool, every phrase that you heard in a rap song. It's triggering,
Yes. And
honestly.
it is. And they do. They do it like they do it. They're not stopping. Anytime.
I can't. Yeah,
Every time I'm on the Instagram Explore page, I will randomly hit something like, oh, okay, well, oh, so they're just saying that. Okay, cool, got it, got it. Oh, and 1 million views on. Oh, okay, got it. Got it. So they're just gonna take our culture and then get. Okay, got it. It's sponsored content. Got it. Okay. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. When you're
wow.
like, oh wow, just getting sponsored to say black things. Got it. Cool. Got
Oh my
it.
God.
Okay. Well, that's so then I love do it for the 90 because I've never thought about it that way. I think I get kind of stopped and stunted at thinking about the 10, and afraid of the 10. And maybe this is helpful, in thinking about the 10, because obviously there's the 10 is a reality, right? It's one of those things where it's like you can't, as much as we can focus on the 90, the 10 is a reality. So how do you suggest preparing for the 10? Is there a preparation to be done? Obviously some of it's emotional, some of it, if you're approached by a foreign cop, like how do you prepare for the 10?
Yeah, it's almost like I go into this like switch. The minute I get on a plane, I no longer have home court advantage. Whatever is said to me, I can't act like whatever things and beliefs that people have in different countries or territories. I'm a visitor, and I always
Mm,
have to yield to the fact that like I'm visiting them in their home turf where they have certain beliefs, standards, rules, societal rules, and understandings that I have no idea about. If someone comes up to me, oh, we don't like black people, F you, go back to your country. I'm okay. And I have to swallow that. And trust me, that takes work. I will
Mm,
swallow that and walk away. And it is not worth getting locked up in foreign jail. Because here's
right.
the thing, if I'm like, boom,
Yeah,
if I
let's
throw hands, if I do what I actually want to do, and someone, another local, comes and sees us scuffling, whose side are they going to take?
absolutely.
Random black person or their own people?
Yeah.
I end up in foreign jail now, and maybe I'm banned from that country. There, the possibilities, you don't know what people are capable of doing when you're a stranger. I have to
Yeah.
constantly remind myself that, like, I don't have the home court advantage. My passport only means so much when I'm in my country. But if I'm in
Yeah.
someone else's, I don't have that home court advantage. So it takes a lot of humility. It also takes a lot of like discernment. If I'm going to a place where the vibe, the energy, I feel a lot of negative stares, I'm not going to stay there. I'm like, nope,
Got it.
I don't feel wanted here. I can tell that there's an issue with me being black. You
Mhm.
know, clearly, like let me excuse myself. And maybe that messes up my evening and I got to go find another restaurant or whatever. I'll do that to stay safe and stay within the boundaries of like, how do I have a good time and ensure my own safety? Because I solo travel a majority of my time as well. So I also
Yeah.
don't even have like backup or a friend.
It sounds like meditation, as we said earlier, is a huge part of this. Like, don't
Lord.
go out before you meditate. So, um, which that's just a life hack for listeners. Don't go out without meditating. You're less likely to throw hands if you meditate. Um, if you, so like in terms of, do you ever, this is my one question and then I'll ask it. Do you ever like make sure your return flight is flexible so that you if you have to like peace out you do, or is that like a thing, or do you just like, you know what, I'll stay at the hotel or I'll just, you know.
That's a really good question. So for a long time, especially in those first like 5 years when I was kind of just like on an endless journey because I didn't know what I was building or what the end goal was, I only booked one-way tickets. So I was
Mm,
going from like Paris to Belgium to Spain to Germany to Russia to Poland, like just one-way tickets. And the website that I used, because sometimes they're like, oh, we need to see proof of onward journey, fakeflighttickets.com. You can buy a fake itinerary for $5 to
work.
show look, it is the
The
biggest
hack.
travel hack ever. Fakeflighttickets.com for $5. And what I love about it, it's a legitimate flight. So if they try to look up the flight, they'll see it. It's on the schedule.
Right, right,
What they
right.
do is they like a mock itinerary of like what it would do if you actually book the seat. And Expedia, they'll do it through Expedia, which they actually do it. So they pre-purchase tickets from Expedia and then sell it back to people who need it. But it's only
Oh.
$5 because you're renting the seat for 24 hours.
Oh.
It is such a great business idea. So I'll use that to kind of like cover myself if I like need to be in a country on a working visa or business visa.
Sure.
So yeah, there are those kind of hacks. But outside of that, I love to use Skyscanner to kind of see what days of the month are cheapest to fly out. Because maybe I only wanted to go somewhere for 1 week. But if I can save $500 by flying a week later, I'm
Come
like,
on.
oh, I'll just stay there 2 weeks.
Save that 500. Hey.
And this is kind of built into my work. So a lot of my work is location independent. So as long as I have a laptop and Wi-Fi, I can work from anywhere. So I'm not filming or on set for anything. So I guess
Yeah.
that also really helps.
What have you learned from, you know, because you are like, I'm realizing like you are who I wish, who I aspire to be. I'm
Oh,
like,
stop.
she travels solo. Like she meditates. Like this is if you're not, if you're listening, you should see the kitchen that Glow is in, the plants, it's just like it's a fucking Architectural Digest Instagram, just mwah.
God.
So what have you, but like, you know, so solo is very hard for me, which is interesting. I can do solo at home. I love solo at home. I actually, you know, for Matthew and I, for those who know, Matthew's my husband, we've started to learn and appreciate that time apart, especially in the quarantine. Time apart is also very important. You know, like there's like the societal norms of marriage, which is like we should do everything together. And it's like, I love you, but like, you know, a nice little break from you is great. So like sometimes what I'll do is I will like rent or book a hotel for like a weekend and just kind of like close the door, watch TV, order room service, live my life. But that's like the extent of my solo travel, which is like I went down the block. Like I did it in WeHo. Like I ain't go nowhere. I like to be inside by myself, but like going away or going out of the country is a little scarier to me. But I also imagine, because if I do it, I learned so much about myself, right? There is something beautiful about that time alone. And so I'm wondering what you have learned or some of your biggest lessons from traveling by yourself. Because it's, again, one thing to go to West Hollywood, another thing to go, across the ocean by yourself. What are some lessons or things you learned?
Yeah, and you touched on it. I think we are going to spend more time with ourselves more than anyone else in the world. Like there's just so much downtime, whether it's just going to the bathroom or just, writing something. We need to learn how to love ourselves. And because like I grew up in a family of 8, I was constantly around siblings, parents,
Yes.
like we lived in a small condo. So I was constantly around people. And I feel like that didn't give me the space or the capacity to dream, to think, to figure out what I wanted to do. And I think that's
Mm,
why I craved solo travel. It became therapeutic for me because I was like, yo, I can sit here and like just think. Like you got to give yourself the space to create, the space to think, the space to process. Because for a lot of us workaholics, like we don't really process emotions. We feel it and then we're like, oh, work. Oh, let me do the
yes.
thing that I got to do. Oh, obligations. Oh, responsibilities, life.
Yes.
We don't allow ourselves to actually process any of our emotions. We're just so busy in moving on to the next thing. So for me, the biggest things I learned about myself is that my main trauma response is how do I run away from this by staying busier? I would
Mm.
literally pile more things on my plate if I could avoid processing hard emotions. And I was
Woo!
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, you can't run away from yourself. Like whether you get this spiritual breakthrough in your home or in Bali, you're gonna be with yourself. You gotta
Mm,
figure out if you can't fix you, don't rely on anyone else to. Whatever voids you have about yourself, you're gonna still have it in a relationship, in a marriage, as a mother. Like you gotta fill your own voids or stop putting so much pressure or reliance on someone else to fill a void that only you can fill. Whether that comes through books, reading, meditation, whatever. But you've gotta like, I love personality tests, Enneagram, the DISC personality test, the ENFJA. I do all of this because self awareness is my jam. The more I know about myself, the more I can understand myself, the more I can learn and process, and then just be a better human being. If I know that I'm impatient, I can approach situations that trigger my impatience with more calmness and compassion.
sorry, I pulled away from the mic because I was like, this is a whole sermon. It's a whole word. I just want to take this in. When you said fill your own void, because you're gonna have that void in your marriage, as the mom, as the what in the relationship, that is deep. And beyond like those are what we call facts. Like those are straight facts.
Look,
um yeah, that's so, and I think that's why I'm an only child, and so I grew up, I'm very comfortable by myself, but again, by myself at home, like by myself in a familiar kind of home place. Because I like to have my, even like when I say I go to like a hotel in West Hollywood, it's like because I like to know that my local restaurants are still available to me.
oh my gosh. We're going
Yes,
on that. We'll
we'll work on that. We'll work on that. When COVID is over, I will solo travel with you. We'll stay in separate hotels so we still seem like we're apart, and then we can meet up for like brunches.
oh my God, I love
But I imagine that sounds like a TV show. Glow and Brandon take Europe, take Africa, take Australia, take it all. But I imagine that I really want to push myself with this do it for the 90, because I imagine that there is something really special about being in a foreign country and not having that control, really having to rely on humanity, really having to rely on instinct, really having to um rely on spirit, do you know, to kind of navigate, whether it's the language, it's the food, it's the, the cab to the hotel. Like there's something, a different instinct, I imagine, activates that I am not activating here in LA. Um, just I'm not, but that I imagine activates that would lead to some expanding. Just expansion as a person, expanding that self awareness, expanding, just that expanding the healing.
Yeah.
I just imagine that. Am I crazy? Tell me if I'm right.
You nailed it perfectly. It's this idea of surrender. I have been
Mm,
someone who I try to control so many aspects of my life because of childhood trauma of abandonment and neglect. So I'm like,
yes.
if I can control all my relationships, then no one will leave me.
Yeah.
Like, and that was like childhood trauma that I had to overcome. So this idea of surrender, being put in unfamiliar territory with an unfamiliar language and unfamiliar currency, forces you to be like, yo, I can't control anything because this ain't my not familiar with any of this. So
Yeah.
let me trust the universe, trust the people, trust the vibe and the energy that things are gonna go well, even
Yeah.
though I can't guarantee it. It's this idea of like, again, I have a 90% chance that things will go well here, but there's that 10% that could slip.
Sure.
And I think you mentioned expansion is it's so powerful because I travel for the people, not the places. Like,
Mm,
yes, see, the Eiffel Tower and have dinner over the river Seine, but it's the people that you're connecting with. You're talking to someone who is French and they have 30 years or however many years of being French and growing up in France. That
yeah.
you can't buy that experience. You can't read about that experience. You can only learn through someone else's journey. And you now are two people who grew up halfway across the world exchanging stories about your lived experiences. There is nothing more powerful and beautiful than that. And that is honestly why I travel. That's what keeps me on the road. I'm like, man, who can I touch and who's gonna touch me? Like
Ugh.
with just yeah, it's
I got
everything.
chills again. This is like a second wave of chills. I travel for the people, not the places, because that's the other thing. I'm like, and I traveled in school. So like I've been to France and Amsterdam and did some studying, whatever. And it's like the Eiffel Tower is like cool. I'll never forget in high school, and God bless my mother. My mother was like, any opportunity there was, like a school. Also, this is gonna sound wild. The school trip was to France. So let's just acknowledge that that is stupid and crazy, and I couldn't afford it. But my mother, I went to a private school in Georgia, and my mother worked her ass off to send me there, and also to like give me the opportunity because she believes and still believes in the value of travel. And so she saved, scraped her coin to send me on the spring break trip to France, where I got a drinking violation because I drank a pina colada, and you're not supposed to drink on the fucking trip. And you want to hear the story? I'll tell you the story. The story goes like this, and then I'll tell you what I learned. The story goes like this. The story goes that in France, I think the drinking age is like 16 or 17, and we were all around that. We were like juniors, seniors in college, in high school. And on the final night, we go to some bar, and I'm sure we look crazy because we're like fucking rolling 10 deep. And it's like 8 white people, and then like me and this girl whose name I will not mention, black girl who I won't mention because she is the villain in the story. Um, she is, so I was a boarding student and she was a day student, so she grew up with the kids. Anywho, ways. What had happened was everyone went around and ordered a drink, and I ordered a pina colada because I didn't know nothing about no alcohol. I was just like, my mom used to order a virgin pina colada for me, so I was like, pina colada, please. And this other girl, this white girl who was friends with the other girl, who let's call her Michelle. Just we'll call her Michelle because the race is actually not important here. So the white girl, who we'll call Linda ordered an Irish whiskey, and Linda was turned. Okay. This Irish whiskey turned Linda out, like to the point where like she was kind of stumbling up the escalator. But Michelle didn't order anything. And that I learned a lesson here. So then we go back to the hotel. Everyone's chill. Everyone's going to bed. And then I'm gonna hang out with Madame, who's my French teacher. And here come Michelle Michelle turned on the dramatics and she was like, Madame, I don't know. I just feel like I have to tell you that, there was some drinking and some of the other people. And I was I was there with Madame, and Madame turns to me, and I loved Madame Welsh. She was like the best. And she's like, Brandon, were you? And I couldn't lie. I couldn't lie to her. I said, yeah, yes, I was. I was. And so like they rounded all of us. And then we got back to Georgia. This is such a long story. We got back to Georgia, and now we got to deal with honor council. And the agreement that the 10 of us made was we only talk about ourselves. Little did we know that Michelle and Linda had a little alliance. And so Linda goes in with the story. Once Linda is clear that we're only talking about ourselves, Linda goes in and tells the story that she only had the whipped cream from the Irish whiskey. Linda gets off scot-free. Ain't nothing happened to her. No detention. She's fine. Michelle co-signs. This is what I'm saying. Michelle co-signs. She's like, yeah, she only had the whipped cream. Meanwhile, we all know that we were helping Linda up this. And so I, I learned a lot of things, which is one, if everybody ain't drinking, don't drink. This is if you're if you're in high school and you get in trouble. The other thing I learned is like it's okay to talk about the people. It's okay to be like, listen, Linda was doing. It's okay to snitch if you got to. Don't let Linda get away.
Oh my
But the whole point of the story, which we might actually cut out because that was a long story, is that I don't care about the Eiffel Tower. The best part of the trip was when Madame took us to like the small villas and to the small outskirts, and we got to really, and she knew the town, she knew the little areas, and so it was a cool experience to get to see her in her element, to learn from her, to learn from the people. Like the Eiffel Tower was like, it was cute and it's impressive. Don't get me
God.
wrong. It's cute, but it was for the people.
That's exactly it. And it's so funny because when Tinder started to get hot, like a lot of people were, using Tinder for dinner or just using Tinder for hookup dates, whatever. I use
Yeah.
Tinder for tour guides. I was
Oh,
like, I was like, hey, looking for a tour if you want to show me around your city. It was such a good because you're also gonna vet people who are just, looking for one thing. But like
yes.
when you put it very clear why you have a profile and like this is why what you're looking for, and that all of your hours are in the daytime, you're gonna weed out all of the
All of
crappy
it.
people.
You're gonna read out the booty calls.
I, I am literally still friends with some of my tour guides around the world. Like we had like such great time. They would show me to their favorite coffee shops. They would literally take, oh, you should meet my mom. Like it was
Yes.
a thing, but there was also this like trust and this universal like this is so cool that I feel like I have a black friend because again a lot of these people have never met a black person before and
Yeah.
they're literally contextualizing everything they thought about black people through you. And it's not like, oh, show me your rap songs and tell me
Right, right,
about
right.
oh, but it's like, wow, like I just I'm so honored. Like it was this like, wow, it was this true admiration and honestly like just excitement. Like they would see black culture as an aspiration. And we joke about
Mm,
how everyone co-ops, what we
yes.
do, but in other countries, especially across the Atlantic, it was like, man, we'll never be as cool as them. So let's just, if we can hang out with them, that's like the next best thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And they are right. We are cool and you should aspire. And you're not wrong. I don't want to lead y'all astray. You're right. We're the coolest out here. But is there ever anything like, do you ever feel this is interesting because I talk about being people's first black friend in like high school, in like Southern high school, and like the kind of like, oh my God, I'm your first black friend, girl. But maybe that's because I'm like, there are black people here. I'm so confused. There are black people in your town. I'm confused why I'm the first black friend. And you're 14, you're 15, what? Um, like, come on. But for you, I guess being in a different country, if there aren't black people, um, in that town or in that city, then it's not a it doesn't feel like tokenizing, right? It doesn't feel like the circus or like, oh my goodness, look, I'm not racist because my new black friend. I'm 16. I got my first black friend. It's like, oh no, there's just culturally black people aren't here, and it's so wonderful to finally. Is that
It's a
right? Is that the energy?
it's a genuine appreciation
Yeah.
to learn firsthand what they don't have access to.
Mm,
It's like we know black people don't visit our country, like we don't see them, like our cable networks don't even show them that much, but we
yeah.
know they exist. And to have access to one in person and we get to just learn her story or just talk to her, like it's a genuine appreciation for learning about
Mm.
another culture.
That's that's beautiful. And I guess I'm also thinking, well, I lump white people in as like all white people, but I can't tell you that like I have an Irish friend. So if I went to Ireland, it's like me having the chance to have a conversation with somebody Irish as opposed to just like a white person. And
Yeah.
that's the same in reverse. It's not just like, oh, it's a black person. It's a different that makes perfect sense to me. Um, I love that. Okay, I have to if we have to because this could be a 5-hour episode, but I'm gonna do the people a favor. And well, actually, the favor would be to make it a 5-hour episode. Hey, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna respect our time. Um, and so earlier we were talking about where I feel called to lead, stepping up into where I feel called to lead. And I think it's so interesting that we started there and we were talking about social media because as you started talking about traveling, I was like, oh, that's exactly what Glow did. She felt called to lead in this space where we as Black people are so absent or don't feel safe or don't feel comfortable. And this is a space where you've been called to lead and you're doing it so beautifully. So in let's just say in 2021, where do you feel in addition, are there any other places you feel called to lead or feel called to step up?
That is such a great question because I think around the time our platforms blew up, I was thrusted into positions that I didn't feel called for. And it was
Mm,
like, even though I was teaching and preaching on diversity, inclusion, allyship, I was put into positions where these large contracts were offered to like teach these like departments of 300 plus employees. And I'm like, no, because like there are actual people that have an education and background in that field. I will
yes.
refer them to you. Like, oh, but we like your delivery. I'm like, then stay on Instagram because I don't want to dedicate. Because I just I don't want that live burden,
Yeah.
live teaching for 4 hours on a very triggering topic. I can
Yes.
deliver it like this on Instagram because I can take my time to process and meditate and
Yes.
deal with what I really feel like, and then I put it out there. If I'm teaching it live, I'm gonna get fired up and I'm gonna say the wrong thing.
Hello.
You
20
go,
minutes in, I'll be like, you know what? I'm mad. I'm so sorry. I gotta go. This actually pissed me off. I'm
I'm
with
like,
you.
you know what? In the beginning, I thought I could do this, but y'all suck, and I
Y'all
just
suck. I don't like your energy. I don't like your energy. I gotta go.
I was like, I don't want to say something I'm gonna regret, and I'm like, I'm not called to do live training around diversity and inclusion, and that's not me. I can
Yeah.
teach on it in content that takes my like for me, like I know you do a lot of IGTVs and you're so eloquent and just so good at
Thank you.
just yeah, putting your thoughts and just delivering it with passion, with purpose, with mission. If I go live or if I do videos every time, I'm either going to curse someone out or cry
Hey,
because
yeah.
my emotions, the way they're set up, I can't just like monitor them like that. And so I
Yeah.
create carousels and I do like graphic posts because I can process behind the scenes and no one has to see that I was angry when I created this, that I was
Yes.
pissed, that I cried. Like there were carousels that I created that I cried through. The Emmett
Mm.
Till one, when I'm recapping the Emmett Till story,
Oof, yeah.
most white people don't even know about that. And I'm looking at these pictures and I got to talk. I'm like,
Yeah.
ah, you know,
Yeah.
triggering, and I can't always be that. So yeah, for me, I just like, okay, so you, sorry, going back to your
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
where do
Well,
I
so
feel?
we know what you're not called to, and I want to actually know. I want to touch on that a little bit before I let you go. But what do you feel called to, or what do you hope to be called to? Maybe.
It's scary because I thought, like, I'm in a position where I do everything myself, all aspects of my business. I'm a solopreneur, and I thought I needed management. I thought I needed like a team to help me get to that next level, but I can't even conceptualize the next level because the opportunities are coming at me that I'm like, okay, let me consider this, or let me think about this. But I really, really, truly value storytelling, and I
Mm,
really value visibility and other Black people seeing themselves do things that they didn't think was for them.
yeah,
So I'm like, I don't know what product, service, thing that's gonna look like yet, but maybe it's writing a show, maybe it's filming a sequence. I launched a podcast. Like, I just want to tell more of our stories so that I don't have to share them on carousels in like
yes,
these such basic concepts of the Black experience. I'm like, how do people not already know this? My most
yeah.
viral carousels are the most basic aspects of Blackness. And I'm
You,
just like,
yeah.
if more
Yep.
of this Black experience was like normalized and put out there in a more digestible way on TV or whatever, I'm like, maybe that would help with just spreading what our experience looks like. So,
Yeah.
long story short, I don't know.
It
I know.
sounds like you know a little bit. No, what I love about this is um about the question about what you're called to, because I had personally recognized in June and July, and I had, or after my first video, which went viral, I remember when it was at like 60,000 views, and I think now it's at like 1.3 million, which is not like a brag. It's just like, it's like a,
So,
oh, there's a lot of eyes here. There's a lot of attention here, and that's different than what I expected, which was like, a couple of my friends to watch. And when it was 60,000, I like woke up in the morning, and I remember just being over here by the coffee table, and I have a photo of James Baldwin on the wall. I have my grandmother on the wall. I have a photo of these like 5 or 6 Black kids. It's like a pencil drawing, and I was weeping because I was like, I think I'm called to this. I think there's a reason that this is hitting right now. And my grandmother was a minister, and so we had a conversation. She's passed, but we had a spiritual conversation that morning, because it was like, well, this is her legacy. Like, this is what she did. She knew how to take big concepts about spirit and God and Christ and break it down in a way that, when her funeral happened, I think I've said this on the show, like, the church was like overflowing with people that I didn't even know that she had that impact. When you like see it, when you see like hundreds of people coming to a church and like crying in your arms because your grandmother has passed, it's like, oh fuck, this woman, like, this is what she did. And so there was like, okay, I feel called to do this, to talk about this. But then, similar to you, it was like, yes, but I am like exhausted talking about race. Yes, 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 call to this, but also like the processing of trauma and the level of processing trauma, and how quickly you're trying to process it, and also like it's happening to you at the same time that you're talking about it. It's like, I'm not, this isn't quite it. And I'm seeing other people do it and do it brilliantly. And I'm like, to your earlier point, I can refer you to these people because they are on it, and this is what they were built to do. But I'm a storyteller like you. And so it was a matter of honoring the call, but then allowing the call to maybe shift and kind of evolve
mm,
into what I think it is now. And to your point, it's like, oh, yes, I can like post um educational content. I can, when some fuck shit happens, I can, make a tweet. But also like Black joy is important to me. Like, also like, that matters. Also like being messy. matters. Talking about sex matters to me. Like making dick jokes matter to me. And I found myself boxing myself into a I'm here to educate about Black lives, right? Which is like that's a piece of it.
Yeah.
And so it was like, how do I think the call was broader. And I think to your point, the call is really not just about um, protection and justice, right? It's also about joy and success and travel um, and just the different shades of the Black experience is what the call really is, and to your earlier point, the visibility of that, making sure that's visible. And the best way that I know to make myself visible on Instagram, at least, is like, yeah, sometimes I'm gonna post about some heavy shit. And sometimes I'm gonna post about dicks. And like, like, and those two things get to exist. And I think that
Same space.
yes. And I think there was such a tension. And I think so many of us as Black people have this tension because we are expected to be one thing. We're expected to either be the funny one, or to be the strong one, or to be the sassy one, or to be the gay one. We're expected to be one thing. And it's like, oh, the best way for me to rebel in this moment, and by rebel, I mean progress, rebel for progress, is to actually show all the sides, is to actually post about Emmett Till, but then also post about, some dumb shit that somebody did or said. That both of those things get to exist because it is my space, it is your space, and yeah, I don't know if I made any points, but
That you literally made so many, and I'm here. My neck is like, oh my gosh. I'm just like, yes, because I felt that boxing in of like all these people seeing me as one thing, not knowing that I existed with a platform and a
yes,
business and passions before I was thrusted into this position. Like,
yes.
oh, and then it was like kind of this on demand post about this, educate me about this. I was like, excuse
Excuse me?
me.
No.
I'm allowed to just exist, and whatever I feel called on my heart for that day, that's what I'll post. And like you said, that we're so multifaceted and we're so dynamic as beings, as humans, as Black creatives.
Yeah.
We're allowed to coexist with all of our passions and fears and joys and whatever it is we want to talk about. And that's the best type of personal brand to build.
Yeah. And I think that, to wrap this up, I feel like the takeaway, what I hope people will take away, and I'll do a learning moment after this, but what I hope people take away while you're here is, that do it for the 90. Like, and that the do it for the 90 is about you, right? Like there's 10% of this shit that's growth and figuring it out, and like is painful and just in personal life where you're like, I hate this or whatever. But then there's that 90%, and that's what we're doing it for. And even that you're traveling, it's like it's for you. It's not for
Yeah.
anybody else. None of
Yeah.
this is other people can benefit from it. Other people can benefit, but that void is yours to fill. So
That
you fill that void, and then whatever pours out from that, the world gets to benefit. But you don't owe explanations, you don't owe anything to anyone. You owe yourself your existence and the chance
part.
to exist.
Woo!
Does that
Man,
feel like a good way to end?
look, I was like, okay, yes, like, oh, that you just said so many things. I love it. I love it.
uh Chloe, I loved this conversation. I knew it was going to be great, but it exceeded my expectations. You have exceeded my expectations. And I'm just so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful that our listeners get to experience you. And anything, if there's another takeaway, it's that travel, Black people, less travel. What I mean, obviously after COVID, but 2022, travel 2022.
Look, look, well, and here's the thing. I went to the Maldives last summer because it was one of the few countries allowing Americans to travel. And what they did, like they literally put a villa in between every traveler, like social distancing.
They were real.
Look, and I was like, ooh, like I will quarantine on this overwater bungalow.
I
Yes,
absolutely
please.
love it. Love it.
So
Yeah, social
yeah,
distancing in LA is it's funny. It's like a comedy act.
Oh my gosh.
It's optional here. That's why I stay in my house.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. I
Yes.
feel
Well, thank you, Glow. We'll talk to you soon.
my pleasure. Bye.